Hey, this is Doug Giles here, Warriors and Wildmen podcast. My good buddy Rich Whitmer has ridden his Harley into the studio. Rich, how you doing, big dog?
Doug, what's happening? Good to be talking to you. Glad you're alive over there in Texas. Hurricane Harvey.
Yep, storm is real, man. Real devastation. But you know what? Jesus promised us storms, not just physical storms, but spiritual storms. He did it in his first tape series, the Sermon on the Mount. And for you, the Warriors and Wildmen listener, we want to talk to you about riding the storm out, because you can be a heaven-bound Christian, ready for glory, got a condo in heaven, angels' wings, walk around like Victoria's Secret lingerie when you die and go to the sweet by and by. But you could be right now currently going through hell. And we want to talk to those people who feel like they're being Kentucky fried by the trials of life.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, man, Rich, it feels like God doesn't like you. You definitely know Satan doesn't like you. People don't like you. Animals secretly loathe you, won't come near you. And if you feel like you're in that kind of crucible right now, this is the Warrior and Wildmen podcast for you, because the Bible is filled, ladies and genitals, with people who went through hell. I'm talking about some of the most amazing men and women that God ever used, went through prolonged periods of internal and external crud that reeked worse than my bong water did when I spilled it in my Z28 back in the summer of 78 in a burning hot August. That can happen. Tell me I'm right, Rich.
Well, Doug, you're right. You know, the reality is this. They say the crap is going to hit the fan. The thing that I've noticed is it isn't equally or evenly distributed. Everybody doesn't go through the same storms. We all go through storms, no doubt. And I noticed another thing is the devil doesn't wait till you're finished with a storm to start another one. He doesn't. He has no problem bringing 2, 3 at a time, and he loves to kick you when you're down. You know, and that's the reality. So as Christians, we need to realize that that's a part of life. We can't start questioning, does God love me? Does he care about me? Those are not the questions you want to have in the middle of a storm.
Yeah, I like, as a Christian, we're supposed to follow Jesus' example. I do it also imperfectly. But you look at Christ when he got baptized, heavens part, doves flying everywhere. John the Baptist is there, his mommy's there, everybody's there. People are taking, iPhone pics of him, putting him up on Facebook, coming out of the baptismal waters. And what happened right after that? He got lucrative speaking engagements and limousine service. No, the Holy Spirit took him to the wilderness where he went toe-to-toe with El Diablo. Yeah. And I tell you what, man, I tell Christians all the time, it's like, listen, God's in this thing to make you holy, not happy. And things could and probably will get worse in your life once you switch teams from following Lucifer's path and you start following Christ. There is going to be a conflict. There's going to be spiritual things. There's going to be all kinds of weird stuff. Devil's going to toss things at you. God's going to allow him to do that. You can feel like you're at a ski rope with Rosie O'Donnell on it. You're being stretched so hard in life. And you know what? That was the reality of biblical men and women that God greatly used, period. Here's the thing that blesses me about, some of the cats in the scripture like David and Elijah. We're talking about guys who did things to themselves, committing adultery, committing murder. Elijah had a bout of fear, wanted to die, just wanted God to kill him. Yep. Once Jezebel started chasing him. But you know what? A lot of these dudes, they didn't blame God. They didn't blame man. They didn't become atheists. They didn't start smoking crack or become bi-curious in their college years just because things didn't go their way. They plowed through, man, and they embraced the trial. They exercised their faith. And they came out of that crap storm smelling like a rose. Yep. A little scarred and a little bruised and a little bloody, but they kept going through the hell. They didn't stop in the middle of it.
Think about this. In the beginning, literally, in Genesis, we read about Adam and Eve. They're there in the garden, and everything's perfect, right, Doug? That's by definition, the garden's perfect. Everything's wonderful. Best environment. People think if my environment was better, I'd be better. If I moved here, I'd be great. If my job changed, if my spouse changed, if my kids changed, and they think, man, if my environment changed, if I had a better environment.
What if you got new tits?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I tend to vote for those. But so if my environment changes, everything's going to get better, right? That's what they think. Well, in the Garden of Eden, everything was perfect, right? I can't emphasize that enough because there's something about the garden that we don't like to emphasize. That's that, the most cunning creature in the entire universe was loose in the garden, the devil, and he was there in the form of a snake, and God forgot to bring it up. He told him these things, gave him a job to do, told him their one commandment, this one right here, this tree, don't eat this fruit. That's it. That's all they got to do. And he forgot to mention that the devil was in the garden. You want to know why? I heard a guy preach this one time, Doug, blew my mind. He said, it's not God's plan that you would avoid the devil. It has always been God's plan that you would come face to face with your spiritual adversary. You know what? If we didn't come face to face with storms in our lives and challenges, I'm talking about things that we cause ourselves. I'm talking about things that we have no part in. Some things are caused by other people. Some things are caused by the devil himself. If it wasn't for all of those things, we would be weak and useless. We wouldn't have faith. We would be spoiled, and nobody would know whether or not we love God or if we were just spoiled brats. And that's what we're teaching today. Healthy, wealthy, and wise, man. You serve Jesus, you'll never have another problem. And that's garbage.
Yeah. And it's not biblical. And I don't know where you got that message, if that's what you're smoking, that Jesus is some, mystical, celestial Santa Christ, that he's here to just serve your every whim and need. Kind of a genie Jesus. You rub him right and he pops out of a bottle and boom, he gives you a playmate to marry that has the soul of Mother Teresa or something like that. It might happen. It might not. One thing is for certain, and Jesus wasn't unclear about this stuff, Rich.
That's right.
If you read Warrior and Wildmen, listener, reading, top to bottom, left to right, words on a page. If you read the Bible, and again, it's sewed into the first frickin' book of the New Testament, Matthew, and Jesus' first tape series, the Sermon on the Mount. He goes through a lot of great things and beatitudes and lessons and similes and maxims to make your life's glide path headed towards the celestial city. And then he wraps this bad boy up, Rich, saying that, oh yeah, by the way, storms are going to hit you,
Yep.
Floods are going to come, winds are going to bust against your house. However, if you're built on my word and obedience to it, you're going to endure it.
Yeah.
Now, here's something that I want to underscore for the Warrior and Wildmen listener. He didn't say if storms, he said when storms,
Come on.
when winds, when the floods come. He didn't say, it's a 50-50, you're going to go through it. He promised us to go through garbage. And he said, if you're built right, you're going to ride the storm out. However, if you got a double wide on a beach and it's sitting at Port Aransas, then guess what? That little structure that you erected is going to be dashed into
That's right.
pieces.
That's right. You know what? Let me read some verses from the scriptures, from the Bible, Matthew chapter 8. It's talking about a storm. It's talking about Jesus here and his disciples. It says, then he got into the boat and his disciples followed him. Suddenly, a furious storm came up on the lake so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him saying, Lord, save us. We're going to drown. And he replied, oh, I'm sorry, guys. I wasn't paying attention, and I forgot all about your lives and everything, and I was over here taking a nap. That's what people think, right? That's not what he said. He said, you have little faith. Why are you so afraid? Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed, and they asked, what kind of man is this? Even the winds and waves obey him. Now, I want to throw a twist on this real quick. Here's a quote that I kept seeing on Facebook. Fate whispers to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm. And the warrior whispers back, I am the storm. Well, I got a great message for you. Most of the time, you are the freaking storm in your own life. You cause your own problems. Now watch this. They go and they say, we're going to drown and you don't even care. And Jesus wakes up.
God, why do I have penal warts?
Yeah.
Well, it's not I didn't do it.
So listen to this. They wake him up and he says to him, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" Then he got up and rebuked the storm. This is what Matthew writes, right? This is his perspective. And then he says, and we were all amazed. What kind of man is this who rebukes the wind and the waves and they obey him? Check this out. Before he rebuked the winds and the waves, he rebuked his disciples. You know why? He wasn't worried about the storm outside of the boat. Boat represents your life. He was worried about the storm that was inside the boat. He rebuked that storm first. You know what's amazing? The storm outside obeyed. The storm on the inside didn't. Those disciples were rebuked all the time. When Jesus died and was raised from the dead, they said, "It's a ghost." He said, "Man, I am sick and tired of telling you guys that, oh no, it's Jesus." As soon as he started rebuking them, they knew. You know what? We create a lot of our own storms. And you're like, "I'm going to move to San Diego and everything will be wonderful." You're taking your storm with you, man. And the warrior whispers back, "I am the storm." You are the storm, man. Half the time, if we're not the one creating it, we definitely, with our lack of faith and our fear, we can make the storm way worse than it would be if we would trust God.
You know, I'm gonna take a little rabbit trail because a lot of people, when they get into the middle of these incredible shit storms and stuff, and the winds are blowing, doesn't look like there's any kind of atmospheric change in their life. It can be intense, man, and it can be depressing, and it can get gloomy. And you're over there and you're scratching bald spots in the back of your head, just worrying, eating your fingernails down to the quick and all that other stuff. One historical figure, not in the Bible, Winston Churchill, before he became Lord of the Admiralty, before he became Prime Minister, before he became quote-unquote Churchill, he wasn't really popular. You know, Baldwin didn't like him, Neville Chamberlain didn't like him, all the people in the British Parliament, they didn't like him. He was the only one that was seeing the Nazis mounting the threat against all of Europe, and nobody else was smoking his weed, and he's going bankrupt, Rich. I don't know if you know this, but
I didn't know that.
Man, yeah, he was on the skids financially. He's losing money left and right, doesn't have friends, and he had this thing come on him, depression, that he named the Black Dog, and so he would be in these funks to where, you know, the money's not there, people don't really see what he's seen. It's that weird kind of trial that only great people go through. And you know what he did? He painted. He said painting exercised his Black Dog. Wow. Took him out of the political zone, took him away from, you know, focusing on these disastrous things that could happen to him financially. And painting and building walls around his garden and around his lakes and stuff there at his estate there in England, took his mind completely off the situation. And man, I'm telling you, you know, I'm an artist. You're a big Harley rider. Sometimes when you get into a funk, the best thing is quit focusing on it. Yep. Don't look at the storm. Don't stay marinating in that crap. Jump completely out of that thing and get into something positive, whether it's rolling the throttle back on the Harley, Rich, and going, you know, 120 in the beautiful desert out there in southern Arizona, or if it's just getting a little easel and painting a horsey. Man, you got to break the spell. You got to get out of that kind of funky crap. And it's not just enough to hear Bible studies. I'm serious about this thing. You've got to find something that gets you out of those kind of intense situations. Yeah,
and we're not talking about getting into a state of denial. We're not talking about forgetting it, but we're talking about getting a little reset, getting a little room to get a fresh perspective. You know, it's like when you're an artist, Doug, you paint, and I appreciate art. I love art. I love to see paintings and pictures. I'm into it, partially because I can do it. But you see an artist when you're painting, and a lot of times, what do? You have to back up. You got to back up away from it. If you're too close to it, you can lose your perspective. But when you back up and you get the overall view, you're like, yeah, I got it. I can see where it's going. I see what I got. You see that all the time. You see people painting, then they back up and they look at it, then they move back in. We got to back up, man. We got to reset, get a different perspective, renew your mind, get a fresh, a fresh viewpoint. I have a shirt that a friend of mine made. Scorpius Gear is the name of his company. That's a free shout out. He'll like that. But on the shirt, it says, on the back, it says anger management class. And then on the bottom, it says ride more. And that's the reality is sometimes it's like, man, I got to get out of this. Somebody needs to go play golf. Maybe you need to go to a movie, spend some time with a friend, go get some coffee. But you can't stay in it. And when you go get some coffee with a friend, don't sit there and talk about the problem with your friend for 2 hours straight. Yeah. That's not going to help you.
You know, another thing that I do, I don't do it as often as I'd like, but you got to get out of the house. Yes. You got to get out of the environment. And David said he got his soul restored, Warriors and Wildmen listener, by being around green pastures and still waters. Go to the lake, man. Go to the ocean.
Get to the
mountains.
Go
to the desert. Yeah, just ride the snake with Jim Morrison. Here's another thing. Watch comedies. If you're a sad little monkey, man, I would queue up on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Spectrum On Demand, one frickin' comedy after the other. Because you know what? When you're laughing through your problems, when you're laughing through your pain, that's giving you a perspective. It's giving, just like Rich said, it's not denying, the shitstorm that you're in. But it's got to get to a place where you have the powerful derisive ability. Same thing goes for singing worship songs or singing just an ass-kicking rock song. It gives you power over that thing instead of that trial, that difficulty holding you down, choking you, and suffocating you. You've got to laugh. You got to break the pattern. Like Rush said, you got to deviate from the norm if you're going to ride the storm out.
Yep, riding the storm out.
And you know what? People should send us a check for about $5,000 for that little bit of information. You won't hear that a lot in little sassy evangelical churches.
Doug, you want to hear a secret?
Have a second glass of wine, too.
You want to hear one of my secrets of productivity?
Tell me.
Nap. I have no problem. In the middle of the afternoon, I will take a nap.
Ooh,
and you know what happens? Mama. After that, I can work like a machine. You know what else I'll do? I'll stop in the
2 days.
Yeah. I'll stop in the middle of stuff, and I'll go to the movies. I'll go sit there and watch a movie. Disengage. Clear my head, go back, and you know what happens after that? I feel good. I'm refreshed. I can work. Yeah. Sometimes if you need to take a little sidestep from the storm.
Yeah, and exercise also. Get the endorphins cranking through you. Get your muscles pumped. Get your mind pumped. Get out of that frickin' chair when you're staring at your computer screen about some god-awful thing that's happening in your life right now. Work out. Have a second glass of wine. Watch comedies. Exercise the black dog via painting or motorcycling or whatever the hell you figure out to do that tickles your funny bone. But don't sit there and stew and watch the storm, because it does nothing but will suck you in a black hole of depression. And God's given us these tools and common sense to lurch our way out of it.
Well, on my closing thought, I just want to say this. Lewis and Clark, the great explorers, they asked them how they stayed so positive. And one of the things that they said, and I think this is key, Doug, they said, one of them said this: I don't link negative events. He said, each thing I take it as it is. Because if you keep linking negative events, this happened, then this happened, and now this, you're giving them many more times the power than they've ever had. You know what? We could literally link every negative event in our entire life and say, look, it's just been this one terrible thing. And it's not true. It's not true, Doug.
Right.
Each thing is its own thing. Deal with it at just what it is. It's not 10 things, it's one thing. Deal with that one thing, and you know what? You can do it, and you can stay positive like that, because we can link positive events, and we can see the great things that God's done in our life, that our friends have done in our life. So stop linking negative events, this, then this, then this, and now this. And what's going to be next? You know what? Something will be next. Forget about the things that happened yesterday. Forget about the things that are happening tomorrow. Deal with what you got today, and you're going to be fine.
All right, Rich, I can't top that one. That's a wrap, man. Rich, what do the people do? What do they need to do? Our Warriors and Wildmen listeners, tell them.
Go to our Warriors and Wildmen Facebook page. If you got the guts, click on it and like it and follow it. Go to our iTunes channel and subscribe to the podcast, review, comment. Tell us if you like us, if you love us, if you hate us. We'll comment back. We always do. Warriors and Wildmen.